Can you believe it? I built a state-of-the-art multi-million-dollar research lab, a facility that represented years of my life's work and secured critical federal grants, only for my own sister to use it as a makeshift wedding venue. And if that wasn't bad enough, her little stunt didn't just ruin my career, it spiraled into a full-blown federal crisis. You tell me, was I wrong for cutting her out of my life completely after that? Would you have done the same thing? My story begins long before the disaster, back when my sister, Sarah, and I were kids. We were always different. I was the quiet, studious one, obsessed with science and always tinkering with something. Sarah was the social butterfly, charming and popular, always the center of attention. Our parents, bless their hearts, tried their best to treat us equally, but it was clear Sarah's vivacious personality often overshadowed my more reserved nature. I didn't resent her for it, not really. I just focused on my own passions, which eventually led me down the path of biochemical research. I poured my heart and soul into my studies, driven by a singular goal: to make a real difference in the world through scientific discovery. I envisioned a future where my work could contribute to groundbreaking medical advancements, perhaps even cure diseases. It was a lofty dream, but I was determined. Years passed, filled with late nights in university labs, endless hours poring over textbooks, and the constant pressure of academic life. I earned my Ph.D. with honors, and after a grueling postdoctoral fellowship, I finally secured a coveted position at a prestigious research institution. This was it, the beginning of everything I had worked for. My research focused on a very specific, highly sensitive area: the development of novel biosensors for early detection of airborne pathogens. This wasn't just some abstract academic exercise. It had serious implications for national security and public health. Think pandemic preparedness, counter, bioterrorism, that kind of critical work. Because of the nature of the pathogens involved, the lab I designed and eventually oversaw needed to be a biological safety level 3, or BSL 3, facility. For those who don't know, a BSL 3 lab isn't just a fancy room with microscopes. It's an incredibly complex, highly regulated environment. It involves specialized ventilation systems that filter all air exhaust, self-closing, double-door access, negative air pressure to prevent contaminants from escaping, sealed walls, floors, and ceilings, and strict protocols for personal protective equipment, waste disposal, and decontamination. Every single piece of equipment, every surface, every protocol, was designed to contain highly dangerous biological agents and protect both the researchers and the outside world. Building this lab was an epic undertaking. It wasn't just about securing the initial funding, which was substantial and came from several federal grants, including some from agencies with very strict oversight. It was about meticulously planning every single detail, from the airlocks to the emergency power systems, ensuring it met every single regulatory requirement. I spent 3 grueling years supervising its construction and certification. There were endless meetings with architects, engineers, safety officers, and government inspectors. I personally reviewed blueprints, oversaw equipment installation, and developed all the operational protocols. It was my baby, my magnum opus, a tangible representation of my life's dedication. When it was finally completed and fully certified, it was a magnificent facility, a gleaming fortress of science, costing upwards of $1.5 million. The grants I'd secured were tied to specific milestones and research outcomes, and the integrity of the lab was paramount to maintaining that funding. Any breach of protocol, Any compromise to the facility's safety could jeopardize everything. Meanwhile, Sarah's life had taken a different trajectory. She had a series of jobs, none of which truly stuck, and she bounced from one relationship to another. She was always good at charming people, and she eventually met Mark, a seemingly nice guy who ran a small event planning business. They fell in love, or so she said, and after a whirlwind romance, they announced their engagement. This is where the problems began to brew, though I didn't see the storm coming at the time. Sarah was always a little entitled. She had a way of assuming things would go her way, and she wasn't shy about asking for favors, no matter how inconvenient or audacious. She called me one day, about 6 months before her wedding, bubbling with excitement. "Oh my God, my name, I have the most amazing idea for the wedding venue. Mark and I have been looking everywhere, and nothing feels *us*. Then it hit me, your new lab, it's so modern, so sleek, so unique, it would be perfect for our reception." I remember just staring at my phone, utterly speechless. My lab, a BSL-3 facility, designed to contain dangerous pathogens for a wedding reception. It was beyond absurd. I tried to explain, patiently at first, the intricate details of a BSL-3 lab. I talked about the negative air pressure, the decontamination procedures, the biohazard protocols, the federal regulations, the fact that we handled live, attenuated viruses and bacterial cultures that, even if weakened, still posed a risk, especially to an unprotected population. I emphasized the millions of dollars of sensitive equipment, the countless hours of work, the strict access controls. I told her, in no uncertain terms, that it was absolutely, unequivocally impossible. "Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "it's not just a fancy building. It's a highly specialized scientific facility. It's designed to contain dangerous things, not host parties. There are federal regulations, strict safety protocols. It's literally illegal to have unauthorized personnel, let alone a wedding reception with hundreds of guests inside." She scoffed. "Oh, come on, you're being so dramatic. It's just for one night. We'll be super careful. And anyway, you're the boss, right? You can just turn off the science for a night. Drain the dangerous stuff. Everyone wears masks, no biggie." The sheer ignorance was infuriating. "Sarah, you don't turn off a BSL-3 lab. The entire facility is designed for containment, 24/7, and we can't just drain the dangerous stuff. These are ongoing experiments, live cultures. Equipment alone is incredibly sensitive, let alone the potential for contamination." I explained how even the air entering and leaving the facility was HEPA filtered, how every surface was designed to be easily decontaminated, how everything was under lock and key and constant surveillance. I mentioned the federal grants, the oversight bodies, the fact that even a minor breach could lead to severe penalties, loss of funding, and potentially my job and even criminal charges. She just waved it off. "You always exaggerate, my name. It's just a little wedding. Besides, think of the pictures. It would be so cool and unique." I finally had to put my foot down firmly. "No, Sarah, the answer is absolutely not. It's not happening, ever." I thought that was the end of it. I truly did. I figured she'd eventually find some other trendy, unconventional venue. I was wrong. Fast forward to the week of her wedding. I had been working non-stop, preparing for a major grant review presentation. We had a critical experiment running that week involving a new strain of a bacterial pathogen. It was a high-stakes period, and I was spending almost all my waking hours at the lab, often sleeping on a cot in my office. On the Thursday before the Saturday wedding, I was exhausted. I decided to head home for a few hours of proper sleep, before coming back for another overnight shift. I double-checked all the locks, armed the security system, and drove home, my mind still buzzing with experimental data. I woke up Friday morning feeling marginally refreshed and headed back to the lab. As I approached the facility, something felt off. There was a large white van parked near the service entrance, a van I didn't recognize. My heart rate picked up. As I got closer, I saw it. The double-door access to the loading dock, which was always locked and sealed, was slightly ajar. A cold dread washed over me. I rushed inside, my mind racing through all the worst-case scenarios. Had there been a breach? A security incident? As I moved deeper into the facility, the sounds started. Laughter, music, and then I saw it. The main analytical lab, where our most sensitive equipment was housed, had been completely redecorated. White tablecloths covered the workstations. Bouquets of flowers sat on top of the ultra-low freezers, and a makeshift dance floor had been laid over the sealed epoxy flooring. Someone was even setting up a sound system right next to the biosafety cabinets. Sarah, radiant in a white dress, was directing a team of caterers who were unpacking food right next to the sterile preparation areas. My eyes darted to the large bioreactors, where cultures of the pathogen were actively growing. They were still humming, still operational, just feet away from where people were casually setting up for a party. My blood ran cold. The security system was disarmed. The airlocks were propped open. The negative air pressure system was overridden. The entire containment of my BSL-3 lab, my multi-million-dollar federal grant-funded facility, was compromised. Sarah, my voice was a roar, echoing through the sterile environment, instantly cutting through the festive chatter. Everyone froze, turning to stare at me, their faces a mixture of confusion and mild annoyance. Sarah, however, just beamed. "Oh, my name, perfect timing. Look, isn't it just beautiful? Mark's team did an amazing job transforming the place. We're having the rehearsal dinner tonight, and then the big day tomorrow. It's going to be so epic." I walked towards her, my hands shaking, unable to form coherent words. My vision was tunneling. I could feel the rage, the betrayal, and the sheer terror building inside me. What have you done?" I finally managed to croak out. "Done? I told you. I'm having my wedding here. It's going to be the most unique wedding ever. And you were being so stubborn, so I just figured I'd surprise you." Her tone was so blithe, so utterly unaware of the catastrophe she had unleashed. "Surprise me?" I practically screamed. "You broke into a federal research facility, a BSL-3 lab. You disarmed the security, you compromised the containment. Do you have any idea what kind of danger you've put everyone in? Do you have any idea what this means for my career, for the grants, for the safety of the public?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, stop being so dramatic, my name. It's just a wedding. And besides, Mark said he knows a guy who works security here, and he borrowed the keys. He said it was fine. He even disabled those annoying alarm things. He's so resourceful." My jaw dropped. Mark, her fiancé, had conspired to break into a federal lab, circumvent security, and disable critical safety systems. This wasn't just a lapse in judgment. This was criminal. I could see the caterers, the event staff, completely unprotected, walking around, touching surfaces, breathing the filtered but now compromised air. The thought of the live cultures, the potential for an airborne release, sent shivers down my spine. The critical experiment I had running, which required precise environmental controls, was now irrevocably ruined. The entire facility was compromised. The federal regulations I swore to uphold were shattered. My years of work, my reputation, my funding, everything was teetering on the edge of an abyss. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have tried to talk sense into them? Would you have called the authorities immediately? Would you have prioritized the wedding or the safety protocols? Seriously, let me know what your first move would have been. I didn't try to talk sense into her again. There was no sense to be made. Her capacity for understanding the gravity of the situation was non-existent. My scientific integrity, the safety of my colleagues, and the public health were all at stake. I had no choice. I pulled up my phone and called the emergency line for the Department of Health and Human Services, specifically the Biohazard Incident Response Team, followed by campus security, and then my direct supervisor. My voice was tight with controlled panic as I explained the situation, omitting no detail. I reported a massive breach of a BSL-3 facility, unauthorized entry, tampering with security and containment systems, and the presence of unprotected civilians in a biohazard zone. Sarah, initially still smiling, slowly watched my face, her smile faltering as she heard me calmly, yet firmly, articulate the words federal offense, biohazard, and public endangerment. "What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice finally losing its cheerfulness. "I'm doing what I have to do," I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. "You just committed a federal crime and potentially exposed hundreds of people to dangerous pathogens. I have to report it." Within what felt like minutes, sirens started wailing in the distance, growing louder and louder. Campus security arrived first, quickly followed by multiple unmarked vehicles. Federal agents, dressed in full protective gear, swarmed the lab. They immediately cordoned off the entire area, establishing a massive perimeter. The sight of armed federal agents in hazmat suits descending on what was supposed to be a joyous wedding rehearsal was surreal, like something out of a disaster movie. Chaos erupted. The caterers, the event staff, Sarah, and Mark were all detained. They were forced to undergo immediate decontamination procedures, a humiliating process involving chemical showers and the confiscation of all their personal belongings. Sarah was screaming, crying, begging me to tell them it was a misunderstanding. Mark was belligerent, trying to argue his way out of it, claiming he had permission to be there and that it was just a lab. The federal agents were not amused. They swiftly took them into custody for questioning. The lab was immediately shut down and placed under federal quarantine. Every single surface had to be decontaminated, every piece of equipment recertified. All our research, including the critical experiment, was halted indefinitely. The organisms we were working with, though attenuated, still required extremely cautious handling, and the potential for a release, even a minor one, had created a terrifying risk for anyone inside. The federal investigation was intense and thorough. Mark, it turned out, had bribed a junior security guard to get the keys and disable the alarms, thinking he was being clever. Both Mark and the security guard faced serious charges. Sarah, despite her claims of ignorance, was also implicated for her involvement in planning and executing the unauthorized entry. The legal ramifications were severe. Mark and the security guard received significant prison sentences for conspiracy, breaking and entering a federal facility, and endangering public safety. Sarah, thanks to a good lawyer and claiming she was misled by Mark, received a suspended sentence and a hefty fine, but her reputation was destroyed. She was publicly shamed, and her supposed dream wedding became a federal incident. The aftermath for me was devastating, too. While I was cleared of any wrongdoing and commended for my swift and decisive action, the lab remained shut down for months. The federal grants were put on hold, and I lost invaluable research time. The incident cast a long shadow over my career. Though I eventually managed to get the lab operational again, the trust and goodwill with some of the funding agencies were irrevocably damaged. It took years to fully recover. My relationship with Sarah, of course, was completely severed. She tried to contact me multiple times after the dust settled, sending tearful messages, claiming she never meant to harm my career, that she just wanted a unique wedding. I never replied. I couldn't. The betrayal, the utter disregard for my life's work, the potential public health crisis she almost caused, it was unforgivable. My parents were caught in the middle, torn between their two children, but even they eventually understood the gravity of Sarah's actions, though it caused a permanent rift in our family dynamics. So that's how my multi-million-dollar federal research lab became the scene of a federal crisis, all because my sister wanted a unique wedding. It's a story that still haunts me, a stark reminder of how personal relationships can intersect with professional responsibilities in the most catastrophic ways. I sometimes wonder if I could have done anything differently, but honestly, what choice did I have? I had to protect my work, my integrity, and potentially public safety. If you were on my side, please like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.